Hello, stakeholders. My name is Cassius Hartle, and I'm here with my teammate Gennaro to discuss the Right-Away Team 3 project and specifically talk about cost management and earned value management. The agenda for this short meeting will be to briefly cover the standard company budgeting practices. We'll go over a discussion of the itemized cost and ties to the WBS. We'll also go through an example of what we've done for our budget thus far for the project. And then finally, Gennaro will discuss earned value management. You can see here the standard company project management cost management techniques. As always, our units of measure will be US dollars. The level of precision required will be rounded up to the nearest $1,000, and the acceptable range of estimates will be plus or minus 10%. Gennaro will go further into the metrics that we'll be using to monitor, so I'll leave those for now. So the estimation development, we used 4 primary techniques. You guys are all familiar with them, but I wanted to highlight a combination of the meetings with expert judgment based on some past projects we've had. It was beneficial to have team meetings with experts there, and then the experts could come and go based on their timeliness and necessity. And then also wanted to highlight the bottom-up estimating. We use bottom-up estimating because we wanted to highlight individual work packages, but then use that for the overall estimation for the project. Cost risk. This is typical cost risk for us, and as I mentioned before, it's plus or minus 10% for a project of this magnitude. And knowing that product development is our largest risk, we wanted to aim to minimize that since it's almost 43% of it. And through that, we spent more time and more rigor to develop the budgeting for the product development so that we could minimize the risk we had. From our WBS that we talked about previously, we wanted to look at something that was kind of a high risk item in general, and that's the prototype material acquisition. This was quite a long time for our overall project, and it also has a pretty high impact on our cost. So that's why we chose to highlight the techniques that we used for this specifically. The prototype material acquisition, it's going to include the outer shell, the inner structure, some closures, some adhesive, some thread or permanent bonding as we call it on the production floor, and then finishes and trim, and then finally the bike attachment fixturing. We also added some material buyer time in there to account for the time that's going to be spent during the project on that. And I will now pass it off to Gennaro to discuss EVM and our proposed actions for the project.
Thanks, Cassius. I will now talk about EVM and EVA techniques. Our team has utilized EVA to determine how our project is progressing. This has been an extremely useful tool because it has allowed us to forecast future performance, project completion milestones, project costs, and has enabled us to actively monitor and control the project scope. As Cassius mentioned, we really wanted to focus on prototype material acquisition, being that it is one of our more risky activities in our critical path. Due to the fact that our company prides itself on utilizing recycled materials for its products, we ran into some unexpected costs when acquiring prototype materials. In specific, the cost of materials for the outer shell, inner structure, and permanent bonding increased from our originally planned budget. Using EVA, we were able to determine how these costs have affected our project. On the right portion of the slide here, you can see that our price per prototype increased by $2.49. Due to the fact that we are soft launching 3,500 working prototypes into a small market, our planned project budget will be exceeded by $8,715. Using EVA, it was determined that we are now getting $0.993 worth of work out of every dollar spent. Similarly, we can expect to have a remaining cost of $900,000 for the project. Although we will be slightly over budget, we were able to obtain these materials in the time we had originally planned, allowing us to keep our project on schedule. All in all, we have to progress at a rate of slightly over 1 to be able to compensate for exceeding this activity's budget. Although we are not extremely over budget to this point and are still on schedule, it is going to be essential to continuously utilize EVA techniques and change control processes to stay within the project baseline. Thank you for your time, and we will now take any questions.